Hostage tape. The first thing everybody's thinking is, why the fuck would you call it hostage tape? Right? So I'll get to that in a second.
Alex has done some pretty kick-ass things. You guys went from doing $900,000 to almost 14 million.
Right. So when I launched hostage tape, that was 2 years ago. The first year we did $900,000. Year two, we did 14 million.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Undeniable Podcast, where we bring on undeniable guests that have done absolutely amazing things in business, in life, and just in all areas. And today, I have somebody super special, Alex Neist, the owner, the founder, and CEO of Hostage Tape. Welcome to the podcast, Alex.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
It's super awesome. It's crazy kind of how we connected just through mutual friends and from networking and stuff like that. And then we brought you down to Lion's Den and now planning on doing some really cool things with you.
The crazy thing about it, Danny, is that when you're in alignment, when you meet other people and you're in alignment, it's crazy how shit just all of a sudden magnifies.
100%.
And so I feel like with how aligned you guys are here at Andy Elliott and what I've done with Hostage Tape and my team, it was just this instant attraction of like, holy shit, we're on the same wavelength. We're going to the same place. This is going to be crazy.
Yeah. Now, dude, I'm excited to see like just how you guys blow up, how we can help and everything like that. Alex has done some pretty kick-ass things. You guys went from doing $900,000 to almost 14 million.
Right. So when I launched Hostage Tape, that was 2 years ago. The first year we did $900,000. Year two, we did 14 million. And when you're talking about a CPG product like what we're doing, like that's unheard of. That doesn't happen.
And describe that product for the audience. Like, what is a CPG product for those people that don't know?
It's just a personal product. It's something you might go into Target and buy. It's something you might buy on Amazon, right? It's just a personal product good that's sold on, e-commerce, Shopify, again, Amazon, whatever it might be. It's anything. You go down the aisle at Target and you see it, a wall of like white or green or blue of all those products. That's what that is, right?
Sweet. So, well, I'm excited to jump into it. I want to ask about the science. I want to ask about the revenue. I want to ask about everything. Before we get into that, I want to ask about you first, right? Like, what is your story? How old are you? Like, what businesses have you started before? Kind of talk to us about that for a second.
So I'm a lot older than I look. I'm 44 years old. I've got a wife. I've got two kids. I've got a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old at home. And so my background real quickly was I was a professional football player. I wanted to be the next Kurt Warner. Didn't happen. So I played arena football, right, for about 5 or 6 years. And when I was a player, I knew that my career was coming to a point. It was either I was going to make it to the NFL or I needed to pivot. And I knew I didn't want to be a coach because I wanted to actually control my destiny. So I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I come from an entrepreneurial family. My dad was a doctor and he created his own practice. So I created a sports video analytics company, which basically means this. So as a player, right, and I was a coach, what I did was I studied a lot of film, a lot of video, right? Studied our opponents, put together game plans, really understood what was going on. So I knew at the time, that was back in the 2004, 5, 6 time, right? Where the internet was still becoming something. It wasn't what it is today.
No, we're close. Everything.
Right. You can do everything on the internet that you can do now, right? All the streaming, the Netflix, the YouTube. That wasn't happening at the time. So it was a different landscape, right? Software on the internet didn't exist the way that it does now. Like desktop applications were the thing, right? Desktop applications now live inside of a browser. So at the time, it was like, how can we take this idea of video and actually studying it, using it, and making players better, right? Allowing coaches to be able to teach their players better. And that was where it started. So it's like, all right, I'm going to take this concept. We're going to try to do something on the web where we can make video more accessible and be able to really be used. So where it really launched was we pioneered this concept of actually taking video and breaking it down with people. So we actually had human beings, human intelligence, watching these games, adding moments to it, right? Making it more valuable. So imagine this. What sport did you play?
I was a wrestler.
Wrestler?
Yep.
Okay. So imagine if you had a wrestling match that was filmed and it was uploaded, and then I had guys watching it, tagging every point that was scored, every takedown, right? every restart, all those moments.
That's
right?
deadly.
So that when you wake up, you can pull up all those situations and you can learn from it.
Wow.
Right? Because think about it, like from a coaching perspective, like most coaches don't have the time or the resources to be able to do that for all their
Dude, you know what's
players.
so funny? You will connect with one of the guys that's here, the company Sero, that little banner.
Okay.
What they do is they'll basically record all your sales calls, all your conversations, whether it's on Zoom, and they'll tag the key points of objections. They'll tag the key points of here was your pitch, here's when you asked for the credit card, here's where you stumbled, and it literally gives the feedback back to that person. So it's so funny because it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, just being able to go back and actually use that, learn from it more effectively. And so that's what we did. And so we pioneered that. I bootstrapped that, ran that for about 16 years, and then I sold it. So we did something that most people don't ever get to do is you start a business, you make it past the first couple of years, and then we actually sold it. Now, it wasn't like a 9-figure exit, right? Most of it was, there was some cash and it was an equity deal. So I had to vest out the equity. So I got my first experience into big company culture, right? I had never worked for a big company before. I was always an entrepreneur, starting my own thing, doing my own thing. So getting absorbed into this big company, it was based out of Tel Aviv.
Yep.
I didn't have to move to Tel Aviv. Like we had a U.S. division, so we could still work from home, right? But being absorbed into that, learning big company politics was a fascinating experience. It was really valuable. Like the lessons that I learned from building, like we're building $1 billion company right now, right? Just like Andy's building $1 billion company here, we're building $1 billion brand. And building that brand means there's all sorts of things as you scale and get bigger that you have to learn. And so that experience for me was really important, I think. I
was going to say, do you think that if you wouldn't have gone through that you'd be prepared to blow up hostage tape, or do you think that has taught you all the things to kind of accelerate the process of what you're doing now?
Well, it's like what Andy talks about, and I believe the same thing, that if you're going to be great and you want to push through to the next level, you have to go through difficulty. You have to go through all these failures, all these things. And so for me, going through 16 years of building and bootstrapping a company, I failed a lot, right? Like for the first half of the company, when you're selling software, it's doing what you guys are doing. You're literally getting on a phone and you're selling people. But in my company, it was through Zoom. It was through web meetings, right? And so we leveraged that more than just dialing a phone. So I'm doing meetings with athletic directors, with coaches, with those people. And I knew how to relate to them because those were my people.
Yeah.
But having to do that, right, and then fail, like I was a terrible salesperson for the first 5-6 years, right? And I didn't have the luxury of being able to actually learn. Like I didn't work for a company like this where I could learn from somebody like Andy and go, shit, this is what I need to be able to do. This is the sequence of the sales process that I have to do to be able to get it done. I sucked, so I failed for 5-6 years. And then I finally started to learn it because I failed at it. And then I perfected it. I perfected my own sales process of then how I taught my sales team, right? And then how we continued to scale and get to where we were. And then I sold it, right? And then I vested that equity out. But I tell you, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't like to work for other people. You don't, right? So having that experience of working for another company made me truly realize how much I needed to start another company. I needed to do my thing. I needed to continue to play the game, right? Because, a lot of people who start businesses always think, oh, sweet, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to retire someday, go off to the beach. That's not me. I don't want to do that. I want to keep playing the game. I want to keep building things till the day I die.
It's crazy because I've noticed the best entrepreneurs aren't the ones that just want to plan it. They want to go and they have this mindset of it's going to end one day. They love playing the game.
The process, man.
I think the true people, the true entrepreneurs that absolutely go to kill it, that just buy and sell and they just keep elevating. It's not even about the money. It's just they just love the build. They love the game.
You have to enjoy the process, right? It's funny. Early on, there's this thing I used to do when I was playing. I used to, we would play arena football in these arenas where it's like an ice rink with turf, right? And there'd be 10,000 people. And I used to do this thing where before I'd go out to a game, I would sit there and I would just sit in the moment and I would look around and I would appreciate the moment that I'm in and I would appreciate the journey that I'm on rather than thinking someday I'm going to be in the NFL, I'm going to be here, and then it's all going to be worth it. I just had this natural instinct of appreciate where I'm at right now, what I'm building, what I'm doing, because this is why it's so good. This is why it's so fun. This is why it's so rewarding, right?
It's funny when you're super present in whatever you're doing at that moment. It's like the money and all these things that you're after, they come to you because your intention isn't, I'm gonna build this. It's about the $100 million company. It's about the $1 billion company. It's about like just being present in that moment, and it's like all that stuff starts to come with you, man.
Well, it's the law of attraction.
Yep.
Right. And it's also it's manifesting, and so one of the big things that I do that I teach my guys is I visualize every morning. Right, and I've actually done this since I was a player. I used to actually play the game in my head the night before every game. I would get the play call sheet, right? I would go through every play, and I would play the game, every possible situation. And it was kind of a precursor for what I would be doing later in life. Where what I do now is every morning I get up as part of my routine. I sit, I do a sauna routine where I sit and I visualize, and I think, and I feel. When we become a $1 billion company, this is what I'm going to see. I'm going to open up my computer. I'm going to see all the zeros, right? When I get on the private jet, right? When I open the door to get in, like I feel that and I visualize that. And I've been doing that for every single day for the last 2 years for this company. And now we've scaled it up to 14 million in 2 years, and we'll be doing 50 million this year.
Dude, what advice do you have for people? Because I have the same thing. I visualize, I write down my goals, I put them into action. A lot of times when people come into self-development, they come into this journey, we're talking about visualization. You know, you're talking about, how you scale this company. It's just, it starts with the simple things like that daily discipline to visualize and manifest it. And there's something to be said about like attracting that energy and calling it out and then going and putting yourself in those situations. What advice would you have to somebody about like getting into that visualization or getting into something like that? Because most people are like, oh, it's corny, give me the business plan, give me the logical side of things, but they don't realize that the actual emotional side of things, being tapped into just what's going on in yourself and how you can actually attract and make these things become real.
Yep.
What advice would you have for those people?
In fact, my team and I were talking about this yesterday. So here's a scientific way to think about it that actually makes you go, oh, okay, I get it. So it comes down to this, like imagine when you're buying a car, let's say you're going to buy a Jeep, right? You start doing research on buying a Jeep. What do you start seeing on the road everywhere?
Jeeps.
You start seeing Jeeps, right? That's the law of attraction. That's manifestation, is that when you start to focus on the right things, your brain now focuses on and looks for all of those opportunities. So now you start seeing all the good things, all the positive things, all the things that you want to start to attract into your life. And then you stop looking at all the bad things and all the bad shit, right? And so it's also about acting as if, right? When you manifest and you visualize, you can't sit and go, God, I wish I could be this someday. I don't have it. You can't think about lack.
That
you
language,
can't think about scarcity.
That language is horrible.
Right. You have to have, it's what I call having restaurant owner energy, right? You might walk into a room, right? And if you're networking and you're meeting people, you have to act as if you own the room. And manifesting and visualization is the same way. You have to act as if you have $100 million in your bank account. You have to feel it and act as if that happens. That's when everything starts to come to you easily and naturally. But that's a really hard place to get to. You have to have delusional
belief,
optimism, and a delusional confidence that sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. But you have to find a way to get around other people. Like I was telling my guys earlier, the cool thing about when you're here around people like yourself, like Andy, like Jackie, it's easy to up your game, right? Like being an athlete, right? When you play against a shitty team, what do? You play to their level, right? When you wrestled a shitty wrestler, you wrestled to their level. But when you wrestled a great player, you wrestled at their level.
Comes out.
So when you're around other people, you're surrounding yourself with great top talent, you up your game naturally, right? So that's also too, it's like, if you're having trouble, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Go somewhere, get around other people, like here, where it just naturally helps you up your game and just start to perform at another level, but just be around it and see it, and then you can rise above.
Man, couldn't agree more. Talk to us about how did Hostage Shape come to birth? What was the moment like? What was going on? Because this mouth taping thing, the nose strips, everything that goes with it, like, you know, it's been kind of around for a while, but when everybody thinks about mouth taping, you guys seem to come to mind. What was the birth of Hostage Tape? What was the thought? How did that come
So, Hostage Tape, the first thing everybody's thinking is, why the fuck would you call it Hostage Tape, right? So I'll get to that in a second. So I actually went through a divorce. So snoring ripped my family apart and it led to a divorce. But years later, we're actually back together. So I snored so awfully that I actually pushed my wife into the other bedroom. And then everything started to deteriorate from there, right? Snoring really was a catalyst. It's like Indiana Jones, you're running away, you're trying to fight this boulder coming after you. And then it creates all these other issues. It's like, so the Gottman Institute did this study that I like to talk about, where it's this magic ratio, right? This golden ratio of, in a relationship, for every negative interaction, you need 5 positive interactions. So think about this, from a couple that has a snoring husband, 1 negative interaction now starts to snowball into 2, into 3, and then into 5. So by the time you get out the door to go to work, you've had 5 negative interactions. You need 25 positive interactions to counteract that. How the hell do you get out of that? How do you climb out of that, right? You can't. It's difficult. So that's what happened to me, is it just snowballed out of control. And so then, in the middle of that separation, I said to myself, I had an Andy Elliott moment where it was like, I need to fucking look at myself. How do I work on myself, become a better man? What do I need to do? And I had to start with my health. So I said, okay, I've been snoring so awfully for so long. What do I do here? So I went down this rabbit hole of trying to understand, what do I do? And I discovered an article written by James Nestor. He was a best-selling author of this book called Breath. He talks about this experiment where they plugged their nose for 10 days, okay? They went to Stanford Medical Center, and they wanted to measure what happened, both anecdotally and what do these doctors have to say. After 10 days, their blood oxygen plummeted. Wow. They had crazy sleep apnea, and they snored through the roof. So then when they unplugged their nose, they mouth taped, everything went away after a day. So for me as a high-level athlete, I went, okay, how am I 40 years old? My coaches, did your coaches ever talk to you about mouth breathing or nasal breathing? No, right?
No.
Mine didn't either. And it blew me away. So I went, Jesus Christ, it's mouth breathing. So then I went on and I bought some just cheap tape from Amazon. Like when you're doing it for the first time, you think it's fucking crazy and you don't know what to get. So I bought just something. Before I put it on, I had that moment that everybody has. It's, wait a minute. What if my nose stuffs up? Like, am I going to die?
Yeah, well, I'm sleeping.
Like, everybody has that.
You're like,
that moment, right? That anxious thought. But I realized, no, like my nose was designed for breathing, so there's no reason why, no. So I put it on, I went to sleep, and when I woke up, I felt like a kid. I couldn't believe the amount of energy that I had. And so the entrepreneur in me went, there's a business idea here. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something big here, right? And I'll never forget, I was really big into podcasts too, because I was going through that journey of like, all right, I'm going to start changing what I'm listening to, changing what I consume. And I heard somebody talk about this concept of, you can take any commodity, right? You can walk down the aisle at Target and you can see a wall of white or blue and there's an opportunity there, okay? Take a commodity, create a cool brand around it, and then you have something that stands out, that's different, that's polarizing. So at that moment I knew liquid death. Most of all of us know what liquid death is.
It's such a perfect analogy for you guys.
Exactly. So liquid death was something I looked at and I went, What they're doing is what we need to do. They flipped marketing on its head and said, we're
water.
going to do something different, and we're literally going to make this so polarizing that you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, right? And so I took that and I went, okay. The funny story about hostage tape was, so I used to tell my kids that when I started mouth taping, I would say, hey kids, I'm going to warn you, like I'm going to put some tape on my mouth. So if you see it, don't freak out. It's going to look like I'm being held hostage. That's where it started originally, because I used to warn my kids about it. So then I realized...
Did you even think anything of it?
I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I knew there was still a business there.
Yeah.
So then I realized that's it, hostage tape. So then I contacted my partner, Ben, and Ben is, you met Ben earlier, but Ben is the guy that you see in almost all the videos, all the ads where it's this guy with a beard and he's pulling tape up, like that's Ben.
Yep.
So I went to him and I said, dude, I got this idea. It's gonna sound crazy, hostage tape. And he was like, holy shit, dude, I've been going down that rabbit hole too of mouth tape. I fucking love it. So really, hostage tape, here's why we call it. Yes, I was playing with this idea of hostage with my kids and talking about it, but it really taps into this core emotion that people feel. People feel held hostage by poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do. So it's this emotional connection that hostage tape is actually making, and you don't really know it yet, or maybe you don't quite make the connection. And yes, the flip side is when you've got tape on your mouth, you do look like you're being held hostage, right? And I knew that you're gonna scroll through your Instagram feed and you're gonna go, what the fuck is this? Hostage tape, right? And everybody is gonna remember it. You're not gonna forget hostage tape, right? So there's a moment too for, as a business owner, somebody starting something.
Dude.
It's how do you look at this and go, ooh, is that safe? How do you have the balls to go that route, to push through it, and to not take all the adversity that you're gonna get and think, oof, maybe this wasn't a good decision.
Dude.
Because dude, the amount of backlash that I got starting out was insane. Like the amount of people who were like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
This is insulting. I can't believe you would name it this. But
Perfect.
I knew that's like, there is an authenticity in what we were doing and why I called it that. And it's like Andy says, if you've got an amazing product that's going to change people's lives, you're doing a disservice by not. This product it changed my life, and it's going to change all these other people's lives.
Dude.
So I wasn't going to stop. So I kept pushing and I kept going. The team kept growing. We kept getting bigger. And then as a result now, like, so just the other day, right? Joe Rogan's on his pod. Joe Rogan uses hostage tape. He does. But the cool thing is he's on his pod, right? He's talking to an MMA fighter, and the fighter's saying how he mouth tapes. And Joe's like, oh yeah, are you using hostage tape? So the fact that we've now gotten to this point where the biggest people in the world, like Joe Rogan and even Erling Haaland is the best soccer player in the world. He's using hostage tape. So you've got the biggest people in the world who are referencing hostage tape and using that. And in only 2 years, we are now the mouth tape brand that comes to everybody's mind.
Dude, it's epic. And it's funny, the story of you snoring and the wife and the separation, it was funny because it's almost, that probably drove your business more than even the other stuff in the business. Both probably
it's
helped.
real.
But it's so fucking real. It's the real shit. Like, you guys splitting the arguments and then deep diving into this sleep thing and the mouth taping thing is epic. Talk to us a little bit about, like, what is mouth taping? What does it do? I know we have the nasal strips too, but the big thing is the mouth taping. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so here's kind of the simple science behind mouth taping, because again, most people don't realize that nasal breathing is a really important function, and we should not be mouth breathing. We shouldn't be mouth breathing unless we're talking or eating. That's the only time we should be. So it comes down to a couple of things. One, it's when we nasal breathe, we get more oxygen in our body. It's really that simple, right? Yes, there's a relationship of CO2 and oxygen, but the more CO2 in our body, right, the more oxygen we can get in. And so that means we have more oxygen going through the body, right, to give us more energy. Number two is when we breathe through our nose, it goes through the sinuses and triggers nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is what we call a vasodilator that helps move blood through the body, which again is oxygenating more muscles, giving us more energy. And then thirdly is the filter, right? The nose is filtering shit out of the air. Our lungs like clean, warm air, right? And that's what the nose does. When it goes through your mouth, a lot of times the people who mouth breathe, they'll wake up and they've got a dry mouth and their fucking throat, it's awful.
Yep.
And they're like, It's because you were mouth breathing all night and you're taking in this shitty, awful air, dry air. Your lungs don't like it. Your body doesn't like that very much. And then lastly, it's cavities. When you breathe through your mouth, so like I was a kid, most of my entire life I was mouth breathing. And I got cavities in all the back big teeth. And my dentist never knew why. But it's because I was mouth breathing. And so mouth breathing,
It's like one of those things you never think about.
you don't, yeah. But so mouth breathing, it evaporates all the saliva. And so when all the saliva goes away, that's protecting the enamel in your teeth. So when that gets dried up, bad bacteria gets in and then makes you way more prone and open to cavities.
Yeah.
So those are just like some really simple things. But so the mouth tape helps you keep your mouth shut at night, right? So then we're focusing on nasal breathing. And it does reduce snoring, right? In most cases, you're snoring, you're making fucking chainsaw noises. It's awful. So it's reducing the snoring. For many people, it's completely eliminating it, which again, for me, when I'm mouth breathing and I'm sounding like a chainsaw and my wife's like, oh my God, I can't stand it. She gets resentful and then she moves into the other bedroom and then you create this wall, right? So that's now stopping that. So there's the amount of people who say, oh my God, you saved my marriage because now my wife and I can actually sleep in the same bed and we can cuddle and we can connect, right?
One thing I love is just the pure alignment, right? Like for you as an entrepreneur, let's talk about health and fitness and stuff like that for a second, because it ties directly into this. Because now you as an entrepreneur, how you operate, the sleep that you get, you now have more energy throughout the day. You now feel better. Marriage, all the simple thing like this product can improve all these other areas of life. You know,
it's health, wealth, relationships, man. Like those are the three motivations we have in life. So as you're getting better sleep, it's all about recovery, right? Your ability to get better sleep, be able to wake up and power through the day, right? Health, wealth. Your ability now to be able to last the whole day and have the energy to be able to make money, do things. And then your relationships, right? Your ability now to be present, to actually have that intimate time in the bedroom, but also again, to be there for your wife, to be there for your kids, to have that great relationship.
People downplay the health, the mindset, the fitness, the sleep. They downplay all those things in their health, and then they're trying to figure out, why am I not making more money? Why am I not elevating? And it could be something as simple as like, dude, you have such low energy throughout the day because you don't get good sleep, or because you're drinking the tap water, you're not drinking good water. It just could be like anything, right? And so it's like once you start to dissect and really go down this health journey, you can improve your life in all these other areas, and you realize that like you have such a higher potential and such a higher reach for so many different things.
Well, sleep, look, we sleep a third of our lives, right? And it's amazing how many of us don't think, holy shit, like I should actually be focusing on, am I getting great sleep or not? Because it's such an important, vital part of our lives. And I think for so long, we have been taking it for granted. We're starting to see a shift of that though, right now. And I think brands like us are starting to, I don't think we're necessarily causing that, but people are becoming way more aware of their health and their sleep. So as a result, people are looking into other things that they can be doing. And as a result, like how can you ignore seeing hostage tape come across your
So
feed?
do you know what this is?
The Oura Ring?
Yeah. So I was using the mouth tape and the nose strip, and I felt the difference, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm diving in. I'm listening to guys like Gary Brecka, and I'm starting off my year with the water fast. I'm just in this fucking
Gary
rush.
Brecka uses hostage
Dude,
tape.
I'm in this rush of just everything. I'm like, let me get this fucking ring. Like, I want to know everything. I've done the blood work. I'm doing the DNA test.
Yeah.
I'm fucking all in on this shit. And so I get the Oura Ring, and night and day difference. I've tried not sleeping without it and sleeping without it. Sleep score up, everything, REM sleep, everything is better with it, and it shows on the fucking stats, which is super cool to see.
What I love is the amount of people who they'll tag us in a story of a picture of either their Oura Ring or their Whoop or whatever. But I love the fact that they're showing a statistic, like actual science, of This is how much better sleep I got since I started wearing hostage tape.
This shit is literally undeniable, like the podcast.
It truly is.
Kick-ass.
Yeah, it truly is. It's amazing. So now the nose strip. Let's talk about that real quick,
Yes.
because everybody sees it, and you're going to start to see it more, especially because like yesterday was epic. Like coming to the workout and then having Amy say, "Everybody, get your fucking tape on. Everybody, why aren't you wearing your nose tape? Get it on." So like that was so cool, and then to see everybody running, doing their workout, like with all the it was so cool. So really, what this is now, one of the biggest questions that we get is, okay, but what about my deviated septum? What about my nose? I might have trouble. So we thought, okay, well, let's add more value, right? Let's continue to change lives, add more value, and help nasal breathing. And so there's other products out there that we all know that have been around for a while. So I said, all right, well, let's take that concept, that idea, and again, let's just make it look cool, right? Let's take a commodity.
And it's great for marketing because now everyone's rocking it.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's got because not everyone's going to put the mouth tape on a workout.
You're not going to see it.
Right? But everyone can rock a nasal strip.
Right, yeah. So it's like, let's do something, let's rebrand it and make it cool. And so that was there was two primary goals there was, let's take that concept and number one, let's make it stronger. I wanted to because our brand is all about, let's make it the strongest, comfortable mouth tape on the planet. Let's make it strong, let's make it durable, let's make it work. Right, it's very masculine, and then the nose strip was let's make it stronger than what's out there, while also making it cool. It's got to look cool, right? And so that was really the idea behind the two. And then now what happens is most our hero products are mouth tape. Most of our sales, like all of that, you know, the 14 million we did, like 13 of it was mouth tape, and then the other million was nose strips. But it's gaining. Like nose strips are getting more and more popular. And just to see the amount of people here, right, over this weekend who are like, holy shit.
I want to tie in and kind of close off on something like that. So I want you to kind of close off, give everybody just some tip or something off your heart, because what I've seen you do with the marketing, right, either you said you're going to love us or you're going to hate us. So what tip would you give to people that are trying to grow their brands just with marketing, whether that be aligning with the right people, whether that be creating a brand that's polarizing? Like, what drove you to go this far? Because your approach is totally different. You guys recently, Amazon kick, right? So big changes. And so the approach is so different, but I feel like it's coming back tenfold to you guys.
So I think it comes down to, if you want to create a great brand, it has to be polarizing, right? And you have to be willing to accept and deal with the fact that people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. And that's okay, because your product can't meet everybody's needs. It just isn't, right? A lot of times you have to niche down. You have to go after and you have to be the best product for this particular segment of the market, right? You don't have to make a mouth tape that serves a woman, a man, kids, everybody around the world, has every fucking color. Like you're gonna pull your hair out trying to meet everybody's needs.
You're better off attacking that community. You're better off with raging fans anyway.
I mean, certainly you definitely have to have a big enough niche market right there to do, to start with. But that's what I would say is, I think in this day and age, you want a polarizing brand. You have to stand out, right? Marketing is about standing out, getting people's attention, right? And then the sales part is actually then closing the deal. It's actually getting the sale after that point, right? And for us, that's our landing pages. It's our, Facebook marketing, that stuff, then closing people, once it gets them in. But being polarizing, standing out, and then being committed to it, right? And not falling for, like, you're gonna get all sorts of comments, people talking shit. You're gonna get all sorts of that stuff. You just have to take it with a grain of salt, believe in what you've made. It's gotta be a great product, has to be. You gotta have product market fit, number one, right? You can't go out, put shit out into the world and then expect to get great results, right? Nor should you feel good about yourself doing that, right? You gotta put great stuff out there. But I would say that, man, polarizing. Be a polarizing brand that gets people's attention.
Alex, it's been a fucking honor. Where can they go and buy your products? We're no longer on, mouth tape is no longer on Amazon. Where can they go and find you on Instagram? Where can they go and buy some hostage tape if they want to get some good sleep?
So you can go to hostagetape.com. You can buy your hostage tape there, and you can see us on all the socials at hostage tape on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of them.
We'll have a link in the description below. Alex, thanks for being on the Undeniable Podcast.